back to the creative button. Today you are going to need some small wire cutters, a fine paintbrush and your glue gun, and also your wreath base that you have seen in previous tutorials. Right, let's get to it. So I'm going to use a polystyrene ring this time. I used an Oasis ring because that's all I had in lockdown. And make sure you have tied your piece of string or ribbon nice and securely, because you don't want to forget to do that when you've got all your flowers on, because that will be quite awkward. Now obviously we're going from red to orange to yellow, and we're going to kind of spread that around this ring. As you can see, I've made quite a collection of flowers now, which always makes me happy to see all these. And I've shortened the flower stems on some of them because they're a little bit long and it's quite a battle trying to get them in. So I would normally have a group of larger flowers as a focal point, and obviously the roses are probably one of the larger of the flowers, including the gerberas. So you've literally just got to do this by eye and see where we go. So we're going to start. They need to go in fairly securely. I'm not gluing these in at the moment. I might come back and do it when I've finished, just to see how they all stay in. I also, as I go around, I have a flow of leaves. So depending on what you're after, I tend to put these leaves on the ones that don't, the blooms, the ones I haven't actually put leaves on, where this one obviously I have. So the trick is to not forget that you've got to go all around the wreath and make sure that you don't have any of the white polystyrene showing by the end of it, and balance the textures and the colours together. And we're going to try and blend them. A lot of people have said to me, how did you blend the colours? And it's literally just picking out the different tones as I did it and integrating them with the daisies. Okay, so I put 2 roses in here. I probably need something else to break that up, so I'm going to put probably a gerbera here, which is obviously a different shape and a different texture. And then you can intersperse that with some of your little daisies, and I find these really handy just to plug little gaps. They can go in a little bit, so they create a little bit of depth. This one I think is probably a bit long, so have your wire cutters ready. Don't go so short that there's no grip on the ring. So actually just going to start popping them in. As I said, they have to come all the way around, so I'm going to take the top section, pop one in there. We've also got probably a few more. I can probably fit another rose in there. I had quite a cluster of roses. They do tend to help it grow a little faster as well. And then pop a few those daisies, tuck those in as well, so they're, don't be afraid, you can always take it out if you don't like it. I'm literally just gonna see how we go with these and then intersperse it with some foliage. Now normally a florist would green up and they would put the green leaves in first and then add the foliage, but because obviously this is a paper wreath, I'm doing this slightly differently. But you do need, now that one's a little bit long, so that's going to need a little bit more force to get it in. This is actually a little bit harder to put the flowers in, I think. but probably will grip them better in the long run. So it's worth persevering. Don't get too frustrated with it. And as I said, it's not a done deal. You can move it around afterwards. So, and I'm literally just looking at where the little gaps are and interspersing these with the daisies, as you can see. So we're starting to get there now. Now I've got some nice gerbras here. So let's have a look. Possibly go in there. There we go. Just try and cut that all the way in. And then I've got one more rose. So let's have a look at this. I think, where do I want to put it? The other thing you can do is obviously hold it up to the wreath so you can actually see what's going to look better. Now, that is quite a big flower. Now, I've wired some of these, obviously, as I've showed you in other tutorials. And I've found that sometimes it's a bit hard going with trying to stick this into the polystyrene. So what I would suggest you do is work out where you want to put it and then make a hole in the direction you want it to sit in with the end of a paintbrush or something like that. And then that gives you almost like a pilot hole to get you started. Because you don't want to damage the flower by fighting it while you're arranging them. You can arrange the leaves afterwards to a certain point, but there we go. So I'm going to put one more little daisy there, lift up those gerbras so that that's nice and tight, and then I'm going to pop a gerbera underneath, because obviously I've still got a few gaps here and there. We don't want to see, this has to be a 3D effect. I like a generous wreath. I don't like seeing wreaths that have gaps. It's not good. So, and if you have to make a few more, you have to make a few more. It's no biggie. Now we are going to start integrating the oranges into the reds. So this would be a good idea now to start introducing some of these smaller flowers to help that graduation. And I think that's how I've managed it in the past, where you're then blending these two colours together. So hold back a few reds. I've held back a few here because I don't want to use them all up. I want to try and keep them a few in reserve so then I can intersperse. Now obviously I've got several oranges here. I've got the darker orange and then I've got the mid. That one is the in-betweeny to the yellow. So if we have a look, you can see how that graduation is working, and there's that kind of middleman which is helping transfer the colour. So we're going to go quite large on this gerbera. I'm going to put that all the way in like that. And I'm going to use one on the outside, and then probably going to put a red in here just to intersperse. I have to apologise because my daughter is on a Zoom call, because obviously she can't talk to her friends properly at the moment because of lockdown. So there's a lot of shrieking in the background. She gets very excited. Right. So actually, hang on a minute, I got that wrong. I think we probably need a darker one. So we're going to pop. Again, that's quite a long stem, so you can always trim it down. Trim that down, pop that in there, and then we're going to add another one of the dark oranges. And as you can see, that's now starting to move around into the oranges. We've covered up the string. We've tried to, I've got a little gap there, but I have got some leaves to put in, so don't forget to use your leaves as well, because they are your friends. So they will flow from the base to the tip all the way around. There we go. So we're getting there. So, and then just have an inspect it, have a look at the shape. If you're happy, if you're not, move it around a little bit. It's not going to hurt the wreath. And having a few interspersed leaves within to break it up again is fine. And I've got quite a large gap there, can you see? So that's probably going to need one of those handy little daisies to plug the gap. There we go. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. So we're going to move it round. Now I'm going to start to integrate the darker orange now. And also start to place some of the yellow, because you can always go a little bit further around and then come back on yourself. There we go. So and I'm going to fan out those leaves because they'll help me with some of the other. You might find that the wires actually bend back on each other occasionally, so you need to straighten them out. And I'm going to place that one. And then that gives me a bit of space to then pop some of these ones back in, because obviously we're trying to blend these colours together. So let's have a look where we need them. I'm going to put one there. I think I probably need another gerber somewhere here. There we go. And then just staggering the darker ones so they start to blend with the darker oranges and the lighter oranges, as you can see. And you do really have to cram this with flowers, so you do have to be quite patient. This is not a day project by any means, but boy is it worth it. So I'm going to pop another gerber in there. And then we're going to intersperse that with a few more daisies. The daisies are so handy for filling in the gaps. There we go. You can see that. So and this is literally the way I do it all the way around. I did make a little didgy gerber as well. Just you never know when you might need one. So I could actually move that round. So I've taken that one out. I'm going to pop that one in. Try and arrange it within the group that I've used. There we go. Press that one back in. So as you can see, we're starting to come round. And I'm going to lift up those petals because we want to see all of that one. I've got one daisy that needs a piece of wire. We seem to have lost it somehow. So I'm just going to pop that one in. This is a very therapeutic project to do. And just keep thinking you've got it forever after that. Okay, so I'm going to let that one dry. Now let's see if we need any more leaves. I think we need a few leaves down here. Again, I'm making sure that they are pointing in the right direction. You don't want them all over the place. You want them to follow that flow of the wreath. I'm going to put a little one in here just to intersperse it. There's quite a lot of orange, and then pinch it up. So that's that. I'm going to pinch that in there, and there we go. So can you see it taking shape? Hopefully you can. So from this view at the moment, I've got quite good coverage on the inside, and on the top still needs a little bit of work, but we are getting there. So I'm going to add a few bigger roses now. So that's going to go in there. And put the leaves down to follow the curve of the wreath. And then you can start integrating some of these lighter daisies that I've made. These are more of a lemon yellow. I would recommend getting one of the big packs of paper to give you as much choice as possible, because if you use all the same coloured card, you do need that variety to help it to work. So again, just pushing it in until you get a really nice tight grip by the wire. And I've got one more rose here, so that's one of my better ones. I don't know about you, but I get some that are really nice, and I do tend to flip over these edges and curl them slightly. Now I think I'm going to need to make a hole for this one. Oh no, that's all right. Okay, so again, groups of 3, odds. I don't put them in lines, that will look too regimented. Try and keep it natural. Odds always look better than having evens, and imagine that when you see it, they're all going to be relatively even as we move around the wreath. So again, I'm going to pop that one in. So there's a nice mixture of smaller flowers, the daisies, and you then should get a nice even coverage. Because if you have too many big flowers and then lots of little flowers, it's going to look a bit strange. So that's the trick really, is to try and make it a variety. Now I'd also got the daisies, the ones that I made. Now I suppose this is cheating really, because they are a white flower, but they've got really lovely yellow middles, and I thought that would be quite a nice texture. So I'm going to need to stick my paintbrush in there, give it a bit of a wiggle, because these have got quite large wires underneath, and then we're going to give that a good shove and push it all the way in, and then you can obviously mess about with the leaves afterwards and twist it until you're happy with it. Now I've got 3 of these, and they probably need to go fairly close together, but as you can see, it kind of just brightens it up. Again, different texture, so that's always good. And I love the middles on these, they're so furry. I'm afraid my cats aren't around today, so they're not going to put in appearance. I think they're hungry, so they're in the kitchen. Right, so now that's a bit long, that's probably going to bend back on itself now, so I would leave that one and bring that round. There we go. So again, nice, just coming round that corner, interspersing. Now I can just spotted a little bit of a gap there, so again I'm going to put another one in there. Try and be aware of the height. Obviously the larger flowers are going to be higher, but then you're pushing the daisies down, so you don't want it like going like that, you kind of want it to keep it even. So it's another thing to be mindful of when you're constructing this. And I think we might need a few more leaves, so I'm just gonna pop a few more leaves, twist them in. Don't forget to, once they're in, now I've put 3 here, but they probably look a little bit too regimented, so I'm going to move one so they're not quite so in line. Again, you need to keep it nice and random. It's another trick, don't put them all in line. And then we're going to have a look. Inspect it from all the different angles you can, because although it's going to probably go on a door, you want to make sure that it's even and there are no bald spots. And if there are some bald spots, then just make a few more flowers. We'll have a few spare. Oh, I think I've got a cup of tea coming in here. Oh, my lovely husband. Thank you very much. Right, so here we go. So we're now going from the darker yellow into the lemon yellow, and that will then bring us on to those limey greens. Thank you. Doesn't say a lot. So there we go. So we're going to pop that in there. Oh, that's not actually even gone in. That's not good. So bring it back out, have a wiggle with the wire and have another go. There we go. So in and twisting that leaf. So hopefully you can see that it's now starting to look really nice and crammed full of flowers. This is one of the best bits. I like making the flowers, but when you can actually see it coming together, which is why I've decided to do this not right at the end of all the tutorials, because I think you need to have this as an encouragement to keep going, because otherwise you'll just get fed up with making flowers. Right, so we're going to go in from the lime, or the lemons to the limes now. And I've made gerberas for this. You wouldn't have any, I don't think you can get a lime rose as far as I'm aware. So we'll stay away from that. And then obviously you've got the green of the dark green, which is quite a nice backdrop. So we're going to pop that in there as well. And I kind of do that before I put the flowers in, like I'm greening up, because otherwise that's quite hard to get them in. So this makes a really funny squeaky sound when you're popping these flowers in. Okay, so again, and obviously we're nearly about a third of the way through this now, so it's coming together. And then I'm going to put one under here, so that kind of curls round. Give it a good shove in, I don't want it falling out. And then I'm going to pop a few more leaves, and then we'll start putting some daisies in to fill in those little gaps. There we go. And twist them around until they look good. And then we're going to start to put the little daisies in. And just check, you might need, I think I probably need one there, just so that they start. I'm going to pop it in a bit so it's not sticking out. But if you can see, there we go. I hope you're enjoying this. Please feel free to ask me questions. I don't have as much spare time as I did during the lockdown, because obviously I'm now back at my full-time job. But I'll be quite happy if you have a query to answer you. It might not be the same day, but I will get back to you as soon as I can. So we're starting now to just bring in the texture of these little daisies, and I do love these. Spread some of them out, close some of the other ones up, because that's what would happen in real life. You notice they wouldn't all be full out at the same time. And then we're going to pop a few more leaves in, I think. So I'm going to pop one in the inside. And we'll start to be a bit gentle, because I've just broken one, which is not good. So I'm being a bit heavy-handed. And I'm going to possibly, I've just found a little gap there. Keep going back to it. Let's pop one of these in here. There's a lot of orange, but not any green in the background, and I think there would probably be some leaves, so we need to, so you can address it and come back to it and look and think, oh, I've missed a bit there. So we're getting there. So another little daisy, shove that there. And again, I'm going to just have a little look all the way around, see if I've missed any bits, which I probably have. So a few more daisies there. Now I've also got my house leeks here. I love these. So you can start to sort of have a play with these. Again, these are quite big, so be a bit careful where you put these. Now these are like the bluey, this is the transition between the greens and the blues. And this is the aquamarines. So we are just starting to introduce these. And once they're in, you can adjust them to suit, okay? And these don't tend to have leaves, because obviously when you look at these in real life, here's one of my real ones. It's not quite the same colour, but the leaves are the petals. So I'm going to crunch that one up a bit to fit that one in. And I've got one more, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to intersperse a couple of these daisies just so it transitions a bit, but they won't be the main focal point. They will literally be in the background. So we'll put another one there, and I'll just bring those petals together and gently work that in and then twist it into shape. So that's as far as we're taking it today, and you should be able to see it coming together and feel really enthusiastic about the next stage with all the pinks and purples and violets and indigos, and then you'll have yourself a beautiful wreath. So I'm going to leave it here now, guys, and just finish this off, and we will work on the hydrangea tutorial next, which will cover the blues, and also I'm going to show you how to make a new forget-me-not. They're a bit fiddly, but they are great. So I hope you've enjoyed watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you like what you've seen, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thank you for watching. In part 8, we'll be learning how to make hydrangea blooms, so I hope to see you there. Thank you for watching.